So for quite a number of decades now, cities have required that most new development provide a minimum number of off-street parking requirements. Cities are starting to rethink a lot of those standards that have dated back a number of decades.
You had high parking requirements, you put your building in the middle and surround it by parking, and that was the model. But all that space between buildings was a no man's land.
We've used far too much of our urban land for car storage.
You know, if we start looking at the old ordinance that required one per bedroom or one per unit, none of our current projects would be able to be developed.
In the suburban context, large parking minimums just result in a lot of land that's just used for parking and just used for certain times of the day. So it's really inefficient. It doesn't use the land as good as it could. So, I think minimizing parking requirements or allowing the market to take care of what they need allows for a lot better efficient use of land.
When we have a climate action plan with aggressive goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it would be a little bit contradictory for us to continue to have relatively high parking requirements that essentially are encouraging people to drive cars.
We did a lot of pre-work and work along the way to make sure that we brought our policymakers and our planning commission and the community around to kind of why our focus was going in this direction.
So we're now designing parking where we provide it as the ability to convert to other uses in the future. Because we're looking out ahead and we're basically seeing that the trend is going to be for less parking.
By relaxing those requirements and not regulating or mandating a higher level of off-street parking has allowed us to truly design for the people and the market that is going to be ultimately using vehicles.
So we're really trying to revolutionize parking to have less of it where we need to provide it and make it convertible in that basis so that the buildings are locked in as a permanent parking structure in the future.
So the city's parking minimums is something that we approach on all of our projects, and it allows us to look at the project as a whole to meet the certain requirement that the city wants, but also what's going to be needed by the renters, and how do we not pay for parking that's not going to be used or utilized.
The ability of developers to save money on parking, some of that gets passed on to tenants in many cases.
If land is freed for parking requirements, it's a tremendous effect on urban design. Having the parking requirements reduced allows the buildings to be next to each other, and the parking underground or non-existent, which creates a street activity that's more continuous uses of restaurants, residential, retail, office. So suddenly your environment goes from auto-oriented to pedestrian-oriented.
We don't want to, compromise the building or even compromise the neighborhood by not providing adequate parking. It's kind of putting that onus on us to think of solutions, innovative solutions on how to properly park